coming back into the exile after a month in Israel, I am very much made aware of the reality of living in Babylon. See, in Israel, on the sixth day, if you do not have your grocery shopping done by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, everything is shut down. There is no way to get your groceries after that point. Why? Because the entire land of Israel is really sculpted, it's molded around this event of the Sabbath. That one day that the Creator said, remember this day and to keep it holy, the preparations actually start long before then. They actually start, for many, on Thursday evening. And so by the time we get to Friday in the afternoon, it is understood that everyone working in the grocery stores, at the gas stations, everyone needs to get ready for the Sabbath. And so the whole country begins to shut down. And so being in Israel, everything is surrounded and focuses in on the Sabbath, where as here in Babylon, here in exile, the world continues on, and it's really the busiest time of the entire week at the end of Friday and Friday night. Well, this is the one thing that the Creator reserved for us. He set it apart. He sanctified it. He made it holy, and he asked us to remember to keep it holy. He made the Sabbath for us. He didn't make us for the Sabbath. And when we enter into that rest, when we enter into his provision, we find that there's an extra day in the week. There is extra energy. There is that time of communion with him. And this is what it's all about, because now the sun is set. It's the end of the sixth day, and this is Shabbat Night Live!
It's Shabbat Night Live from Charlotte, North Carolina, with your host, Michael Rood. Join Michael and co-host Chaim Goldman as they welcome from Africa, Pastor Peter Midamba, and musical guest, Teshuvah. Now, here he is, the Messianic Matador, Michael Rood.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, Torah fans. Good Sabbath to all of the followers of Yeshua, the Messiah, out there in cyberspace and watching via television in more than 160 countries around the globe at this very moment. Welcome to Shabbat Night Live. We're coming direct to you from Studio A in the Aviv Moon Studios in the Messianic Disneyland of planet Earth, Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks for joining us for the leaven-free gospel of the kingdom. Here, there is no rabbinic takanot, no Babylonian sun worship, and no papal bull. This is a no man-made religion zone where we are contending for the faith once delivered to the saints. Now, ladies and gentlemen, after a long hiatus, please welcome the executive producer of Biblical Health TV, ladies and gentlemen, Chaim, not a doctor, Goldman. Chaim, welcome back.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Well, Chaim, where have you been for the last, 2 months now?
It's been about 2 months. Well, Biblical Health Television is taking up basically all of my work time. So we have a lot of exciting things, a lot of different initiatives going on, starting from when we were out in Dallas. And
you were working like crazy around the clock on things as far as the lessons for healthy living before that.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about what's going on with Biblical Health TV.
Well,
kind of recap.
Well, people may have never heard of Biblical Health TV. I can't believe at this point that they haven't, but we're trying to get that message.
Well, the
around
whole
the
world should have heard by now, but
because they watch Shabbat Night Live.
Right, and it's also on Messianic.tv,
and Roku, and on and on and on, live stream. So what we are doing is getting out to believers in Messiah, the worldwide church, all the believers, to say you need to come out of Babylon. You need to get sanctified. It's really a holiness message, what we call the missing gospel. From the point that you come to know Yeshua to the point that you see him, you die, he comes back. What are we doing? We're supposed to be getting cleaned up as a bride for him. So we say everything, body, soul, and spirit, needs to be for him. And so Biblical Health TV has a lot of different experts to equip people for that. So first of all, our prime expert, Dr. Jeff Hazim, who is the director of Biblical Health TV and one of the founders. He has left his clinic, his chiropractic office, after practicing for about 20 years, seeing patients, and he is now full-time with Biblical Health TV. So that is just incredibly exciting for us.
Wow, that's a major leap for him. I mean, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And
his family. Three children and a wife.
That's right. I keep wanting to give one of yours to him to help balance it out.
Trying to average it out. But, and so, Jeff has always contributed, but he's always had the office and other pays. So now he's free to write, he's free to be creative, and also we're going to be going on the road, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Then, in December at the conference in Dallas, we released Lessons for Healthy Living on DVD. And I know you have a copy there.
Right here it is.
But Michael, your copy, I think, it's still sealed in plastic.
You're right, Chaim. Now I have slit the edge of it. This is the one I'm taking home. And really, I'm really looking forward to this because, you know, sometimes you need a good punch to get started. And I was there for a lot of the filming of this, and it is excellent. And I knew then that, you know, there's a point where, you know, I've got to bite the bullet, and I have got to, you know, I've got to take the time and put the energy into it because, you know, this whole thing, as you talk about as sanctification, you know, we are told to come out of Babylon. But no one is really defining what Babylon really is. And Babylon, as far as what is happening to our health here in this nation, we've gone from the healthiest nation in the world to one of the sickest nations in the world while spending billions on pharmakia.
Basically imprisoned in our own bodies because of what we're eating and then the medical treatment that we seek and the poison, the chemicals in the environment. People are sick. So when we did Lessons for Healthy Living 2.0, you know, the first one was done over 10 years ago, but came back into the studio here, and it came out incredible. And the really great thing we designed at this time, 20-minute modules, 24 20-minute modules, so you can go through it piece by piece, a little bit at a time, and it covers everything, body, soul, and spirit. So we encourage people to get that. And now that you're back from Israel, you're opening it up and you're doing it. So that's great.
Yeah, that's right. Well, really, the first one we did it together in Israel. This is the way we lived. Yeah. And we had to live that way because, you know, the rigors of out there filming, 110-degree weather, you know, we will never forget Beit Shean when it was 110 degrees in the shade.
Trying to find the littlest bit of shade.
Yeah, and we're standing on reflective white marble. It was like being in an oven there. And so, you know, the time goes by and we don't get any younger. And
that's the thing is the year is coming, so the more that we need this, but also to keep walking in our ministry. That's what this is about.
That's right.
The world offers just health and a little bit of self-help. This is really about deliverance. This is getting free to walk in your ministry. So everybody, please get Lessons for Healthy Living 2.0.
Well, Chaim, I want you to come back in 2 weeks, and I'm going to start this. I'm going to go home and watch this. And in 2 weeks, because I've got things scheduled out, 2 weeks, we're going to move on this thing. And we're going to invite other people to join us on this adventure as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Because, you know, get a hold of this. It is 24 20-minute increments, modules, and this is how to live a healthy, biblical, godly lifestyle and start treating our body like it is the temple of the Holy Spirit that's supposed to be around for a while.
Yes, and even if you, quote-unquote, know this stuff, there's a lot I'm sure you'll learn that you don't know, and the encouragement is there, too, in the practical.
Well, you know, that is really one of the most important things, Chaim, because, okay, I know it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do it. Because I need the encouragement. I need to have this set in front of my face to where, you know, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by renewing your mind. And that transformation comes from hearing the word, from having the right perspective, and getting our life in balance. And I recognize that so many areas my life is out of balance. And when I go on the road and on these teaching tours and run around the world, you know, that's not a good balanced lifestyle. It's very difficult. And, you know, and because of that, I've ended up in wheelchairs and on crutches and things just because of the constant abuse on this body.
And that's how you came to this. Before, when we sort of separated for a while and we're doing our own thing, we both came to this biblical health message and then came back together to work on it. But you can do this is the motto of Lessons for Healthy Living.
You can do this.
You can do this.
Okay,
so
well,
people,
I can do this. I am. So I want you back in 2 weeks. I know you got other things you're going to be tending to. Tell us a little bit what you're going to be doing.
Okay,
you're going out there.
Yeah, well, real quick, the purple ribbons, we talked about this when I was on before. We actually have not paper, but real satin ribbons now. It says, for the prevention and the cure. And if people will go on, we're going to give our website, the Purple Ribbons Campaign. It explains all. We want people to go out, wear these, because we're taking that pink ribbon campaign, that so-called breast cancer awareness campaign that everybody's into, and turning it toward real science and real prevention and real health.
Not just funding pharmaceutical corporations to patent new drugs.
Right, we've gone into that. We've done programs on that, on this whole, on pink washing.
It's a scam, one of the biggest scams in the history of American
But what we said
public.
is people like wearing ribbons, and this is a color that guys will wear better. Those pink ribbons guys don't like to put on. So this is really the campaign for Biblical Health Television. Get out there, put them on. You can order them on the website and wear them and start conversations with people. And then the last thing, which is really exciting, we're getting kicked out of the nest. We're told to go out on the road. Now that we have Lessons for Healthy Living, we're going out and doing Biblical Health Television live. And we're starting here in Charlotte with Dr. Kim, my wife, and me going out, and then in the South Florida area with Dr. Jeff and Andrea Hazim, to start going out to congregations and teaching health and getting to pastors and staff, and then eventually to homeschool conventions and across the country and who knows where else. So we want people to go to the site and look under the events tab and tell us that you want us to come to your town and can help us come to your town, because it's time to take this, just like you did when you were starting out, right?
So 20 years ago,
place to place, ballroom to ballroom, person to person, congregation to congregation. Well, it's time. Biblical Health TV, for 4.5 years, we've been working on this. Started in Israel, came over, been spending way too much time in my office.
That's editing. Right. You guys are getting to about the age when I started doing that, getting out there. So, you're mature enough.
So it's time. So we ask people to go on www.biblicalhealthtv, and the information for all of these things is on there. We're coming at you, and we're coming out to help, and you can help us, because it's a revolution. It's grassroots. It's really everybody. We're helping to equip people.
Well, I'm joining the revolution, Chaim. 2 weeks from now, we're back together.
You're a ribbon-wearing member. It's sort of like a card-carrying member.
I am right here, ribbon-wearing member right here, and I've got this, which I'm taking home. Well, Chaim, we have exciting technology update, and as being the producer of the Rood Awakening from Israel series, I've got to tell you, we are now on messianic.tv. on the internet at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We repeat Shabbat Night Live at 10 o'clock for the left coast, and that starts our new programming series for the entire week, where we run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the only high-definition Messianic television network on the planet, and this is shaking and breaking new ground. Well, we also are on Roku. You turn on your Roku and look up Messianic.tv on your television, and we are running, again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, plus all the archives that are going to be available in there. We're also on the Inspiration Network and Inspiration Network International in 160-plus countries, being broadcast over the airwaves, and also they are on Roku. So people can pick up Shabbat Night Live and a Rood Awakening on INI on Roku on the internet. Also live stream, high definition broadband. Right now we're being broadcast on live stream around the world, and also Roku, you go to live stream and it's going to be there as well. We're also YouTube. We are on high definition archive on the Rood Awakening channel, and then on roodawakening.tv, we're in high definition and audio only right now. So people who do not have high speed can get it.
I'm just thinking back to Naklaot in Jerusalem when we were sitting there editing Sodom and Gomorrah, the first episode, on my laptop, wondering, is anyone ever going to see this? And now here we are, what is it, 12, 13 years later, and wow.
Now people are asking, well, why are you on all these networks? Why is it necessary? It's because you need to be where people can get to you, where they're watching and where they're involved in things.
And when they want to also.
That's right. And so we know that you're not going to be taking part in all of this, but see, that's why we have more than 30 people on staff now that are dedicated to getting the gospel of the kingdom out there free of charge to the world. And that's why we need your help to make this thing happen. That's why we make our DVDs available in sets like this so that you can actually purchase them and help us to get out there to the world. Because if someone doesn't stand with us to help make this happen, it goes away. I guarantee you it goes away. And now, just because the people have committed themselves to make this happen, A Rood Awakening from Israel is also broadcast on TBN's The Church Channel, and that is why we stay on that, ladies and gentlemen, primarily for prison outreach. Mm-hmm. It is Paul Crouch. We met him in Jerusalem, and he told me that when we reported what was going on with the prisons, he said, we're pushing the button right now. We're going to be in every prison in California, and that's where most of the crooks are anyway. And so, not to say anything bad about it.
No, it's a large state.
Yeah, yeah, it's huge. I think, oh yes, out of the seminary there were 5,000 registered Roman Catholic priest pedophiles registered out of that one place. So, I mean, you know, it's a place of opportunity to go to jail and to hear the truth. And so that's why we're on the Church Channel and TBN, and also TBN Enlace, the Spanish Christian Network, which we just got the book. Chaim, it just got sent to me. I haven't given you a copy. Jonas Jr. sent it the 25-year anniversary of Enlace. Oh. Really? And just celebrated that, and we're in every Spanish-speaking country on the planet with original A Rood Awakening from Israel in Spanish. We're also the Gospel Channel in Europe, Omega Television in Iceland. Oral Roberts University has GEB America Network, and we just went on that this month, and then now we're covering Canada with Hope TV Canada. And so our next big one, Chaim, you know this, Daystar went on the air in Israel. You know that. They also just bought out METV, Middle East TV. Really? Our next big goal, ladies and gentlemen, we need you to stand with us because we are going to go on Daystar with both Shabbat Night Live and A Rood Awakening. We will cover the land of Israel.
Oh, that's bold.
And I'll tell you, we are going to be right where, reported it last week, what the rabbi came up to me and said. This rabbi who became a believer said, the Orthodox are watching Shabbat Night Live. Things are shaking in the land of Israel. Keep it up, keep in their face, really? Keep the truth out there. And what's happening is that they see, you know, they know what's wrong with Christianity. They know the paganism that's all added in that. And I am a proponent of declaring the sins, you know. Let's admit the things that are wrong with us, and let's take people back to the truth. And they appreciate that because I am exposing what's wrong and then exposing what's wrong in their religious system so they can understand the words of the prophet. Yeshua didn't come the first time to proclaim himself as a Messiah. He came as the prophet who put the plumb line down between man-made religion, which is absolutely null and void in the kingdom of heaven, and the commandments of the Almighty, which are eternal and everlasting. The Orthodox understand that, and that's why we need to be there. So I'm asking you to stand with us because every one of these broadcasts are made available by our Ambassador Club members, people who are committing at least $100 or more a month, but at least $100 a month to get us on the air, to keep us on the air, and that's why we're in Canada. That's why we're on the Oral Roberts University. Ladies and gentlemen, the next big one, and this is a big bite to chew, but we are going to go into the Middle East and turn the Arab nations and Israel upside down, which means right side up. I do believe that it says in the book of Acts that these are those who have turned the world upside down. It was all Asia Minor, and we're going back at it again. So tonight, Shabbat Night Live, we have the author of the Astronomically and Agriculturally Corrected Biblical Hebrew Calendar. We have viewer mail from cyberspace, our Israel update, and the Rood Review, and our special musical guest, the mystical minstrels, Messianic minstrels, Teshuvah, and our special guest from the continent of Africa, a pastor who has seen death and destruction, faith and miracles from a youth. That is Peter Nabamba, and is here to share his testimony of faith and deliverance. You know Peter, yeah. Jeff and Andrea, Biblical Health, they've known him for years, and he's with us tonight. Tonight's episode of the teaching, do not miss this, From Here to Eternity. This is the good news of the apocalypse and the demise of the New World Order. Tonight, The seventh trumpet. You've been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen, the seventh trumpet, the last trumpet, and the resurrection of the saints. This is what you've been waiting for. You've been hearing about it your whole life. Now you're going to witness it right from the pages of the manuscript itself, right straight from the screenplay as Yohanan was shown this vision from heaven. You're going to see it before your eyes tonight. Call your friends, call your families, call your enemies, tell everyone to get on the air. There is no pre-tribulation rapture. The last trump is when it all happens. It's in the book of Revelation. You don't want to miss this. We're going to take a short break and be back with the calendar after this word for our sponsors, which happens to be you out there. Be back.
After 40 years of labor, including 3 decades of restoring the ancient biblical Hebrew calendar, together with the experiences that accompany years of living in Jerusalem and the Galilee, Michael Rood presents the inspired gospel records in chronological order to enrich your lifetime quest for truth. The chronological gospels piece together the life and ministry of the Messiah in a way no one has ever seen before. It reveals depth, beauty, and truth in the Word that could never be understood until it was put together to tell the story as it happened, complete and chronological. And now you can order your copy today. You can get the chronological gospels in 3 different ways. For your purchase of $69, you can order your own copy of the Chronological Gospels Bible. Or for your purchase of $117, you can receive the Chronological Gospels Essential Package, which includes the Chronological Gospels Bible, the Chronological Gospels 4 DVD set, Chronological Gospels Chart. Or for your purchase of $347, you can receive the Chronological Gospels Scholars Package, which includes the Chronological Gospels Bible, the Chronological Gospels 4 DVD set, Chronological Gospels Chart, the astronomically and agriculturally corrected Hebrew Travel Calendar, Creator's Calendar DVD, Spring and Fall Feasts DVDs, Raiders of the Lost Book DVD, Hebrew Yeshua versus Greek Jesus, Who Was Your Unauthorized Covering DVD, Mystery of Iniquity, Great Secret of Solomon's Temple DVD. If you purchased each item separately, you would pay over $444. Call today to receive your copy of the Chronological Gospels Bible or package set. Don't miss your opportunity to be blessed in the ways of the Messiah. Call or visit our website today. This month, for your gift of $50 or more, Michael Rood would like you to have as his gift this handmade card. This card will remind you of the blessing that you are to those around the world. And Michael will include this sword letter opener. For the Word of God is living and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. Hebrews 4:12. This laser-engraved letter opener will remind you to stay in God's Word each time you use it. The Silverstone blade quotes Hebrews 4:12 and joins a gold-tone crosspiece grip. And for your gift of $100 or more, Michael would like for you to also have as his gift a feather pen set. This feather quill pen set provides the basic necessities to write with traditional tools. It includes a feather quill, a wood stylus, an assortment of bibs, and a bottle of calligraphy ink. And to complete this package, you'll also receive a scroll of the Hebrew alphabet to help you to learn to write in Hebrew. Call today or visit our website at www.aroodawakening.tv.
Chronology is the most important context of all context for understanding the Scripture. Chronology, chronos, time. And in order to understand time, this is what began more than 38 years ago, is the restoration of the ancient biblical calendar so that we could put the order of events in the Gospels and to secure them within the time frame parameters between the feast and at the feast of the Lord. So here is the astronomically and agriculturally corrected biblical Hebrew calendar. It is the only calendar that has been now in production for 2 decades. And this is the calendar that was used during the Second Temple period, at which time the Creator's calendar was based on the visible sighting of the renewed moon each month and the Aviv barley crop in the land of Israel each spring. This is the calendar that the rabbis in Israel get. This is the calendar that the Israeli New Moon Society understands and has corroborated their actual eyewitnesses over 15 years now. So ladies and gentlemen, this is where you open up, and we made it so simple because for those of you just learning it, all you have to do is open up to the pagan date, and we see that here it is, January 24th. It is after sunset on January 24th, and so now it is the 23rd day of the 11th month. The 11th month, that means we are just a few short weeks away from Purim. As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, we are 4 weeks away from Purim, and this is an excellent time. Call now because you have to get the series on Purim. This is The Making of a King's Bride. This is the #1 marriage counseling video series, not only from the scripture, but on DVD from A Rood Awakening. This is what you are going to want to get. 5 episodes, 6 discs, and you are going to go for a ride in the ancient empire of Ahasuerus, and you don't want to miss this. This is absolutely beautiful. This is a time of year as we work our way toward Purim and our Purim celebration. We have 12 weeks to Passover, and again, for Passover this year, make sure that you have the video celebrating Passover. You get to watch it as we go through it, the long version of Passover, as we do it here at A Rood Awakening, and also we have all the recipes, how to make your own we get thrown out of the place for doing that. Making matzah. Thanks, Haim. Thanks for helping out on that. How to make your own matzah, how to do the whole thing, and so you don't want to miss out on that. And you're going to be with us for Passover this year, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a hoot. We have 16 weeks to the Israel tour, and as of right now, we've still got a few seats left. Get on this tour. This is the best thing that you can do for yourself, is to come to Israel. Haim, we put together the first tour, I mean, how many years ago? 16.
A decade.
Yeah.
A decade.
Wow. I don't think we even want to remember it, but there is not another tour in Israel that's even close to this. You'll experience more in 3 days than you will on any other tour during the entire period of time. Guaranteed. You will know it was worth that. And in 3 days, you will know that this has been the best 3 days of your life, but it's going to go for an entire 10 days in Israel. By the end, you'll need a vacation just to recover from the brain overload. 19 weeks to Shavuot and 44 weeks to our GNC, 7 Assemblies of the Apocalypse tour, which is going to be the School of Tyrannus, which is going to be a 2-week cruise and tour of Asia Minor. And there we're going to handle some of the difficult verses in the letters to the assemblies in that part of the world that Shaul wrote to.
The first Rood cruise, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the first Rood cruise. It is. It will be the very same thing. We have Passover extravaganza that's coming up in Charlotte. Now, I've got to tell you this. It's going to be in April 18, 19, and 20, that whole weekend, and that is the conclusion of the feast, and that's when we're going to celebrate the end of the feast with Yom HaBikurim, the Day of the First Fruits. Also, we're going to be having a Passover Seder, but that is not going to, in our theme, is going to be The King is Coming. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be great. However, the beginning of the Feast of Unleavened Bread and Passover is either going to be sundown April 14th or 15th, depending upon the new moon sighting of March 31st. So we encourage you to celebrate that evening with your family. Get the video of Passover to learn how to do it, and then head out for Charlotte like it's the land of Midian, okay? Okay, just, hightail it. If you've got to follow the cloud and the pillar of fire 7 days and nights to get here.
All the tribes are going to come together. And
that's right. This is where it's all happening. More than 500 people last year. We got a bigger place this year. We're going for it. Also, we have the Elders at the Gate Men's Fellowship on the first and third Sunday of each month. That's coming up. And Get Real with Lee and Annie on the avivunetwork.com. That's the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. And that's at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. That's the night when the men watch the children, and your women, your wives will love you for it. Okay? So that's a clue to the women, you know. Appreciate your husband. Yeah, love your husbands and respect your husbands. They'll love you, okay? So now, ladies and gentlemen, viewer mail. What do we have? I'm from cyberspace. Do we have anything from cyberspace? Oh, yes, here's coming in right now.
It's coming right in.
Questions from cyberspace.
Okay, well, Gary says, not so much a question, but a confirmation, and that is that one thing I've been thinking about prior to stumbling into Michael's site was that Messiah's ministry had to be on a year of Jubilee, otherwise statements on debt and forgiveness seem obscure. So he's not quite asking a question, but what do you
Okay, well, I don't think that forgiveness is would be at any time inappropriate. However, there was no year Jubilee that was calculated during the Second Temple period. As we know that the Israelites did not even keep the Sabbath year for the 490 years of the kings. And that's why we owed 70 years in exile, just as Moses prophesied. If we didn't keep the Shemitah year and let the land rest, we would be taken out of the land by an enemy, carried away, and we would be in their land, and during that time the land would rest. And so that's what happened. We did not even keep the Sabbath year. The Jubilee year was calculated during that period of time, but it was never fully done, which included the land going back to its original owners, etc. However, during the Second Temple period, there were no Jubilees that were ever kept at all. There was no Jubilee year, and what Yeshua says in no ways relates to a Jubilee year. People try to make it, but it doesn't. It doesn't even fit within the parameters. His lifetime does not fit. It fits in between Jubilees, actually, in Yeshua's lifetime. And even now, today, in 1952, that's when the rabbis in Israel instituted, in 1952, a Shemitah year. And so every seventh year from then on was calculated as a Shemitah year. Now, from 1952 to where we are right now, in 2014, there would have been an intervening Jubilee year. But they do not calculate a Jubilee year. Why? Because of the legal ramifications of turning the land back and everything else that goes within that. This is not being done in the land of Israel. And even the Shemitah years, or the years of the land resting, the first year it was done in 1952. It was the chief rabbi of Israel, the state of Israel, who, on paper, signed over the entire land of Israel to one Arab for the year. So now the land of Israel doesn't belong to Israel, it belongs to this Arab, so that everyone could keep working the land because it doesn't belong to a Jew. And then at the end of the year, it reverted back to Israel, and so they kept on working it. They've done that a few years, and then finally other rabbis got involved and said, hey, I want a piece of the action. And so they individually sold individual parcels of land to individual Arabs for the year so that everyone could keep on working it. But it was in the year 2002 that for the first time that we saw it, and you were living there too, you saw that they were actually putting up signs. We are keeping the Shemitah year, come do business with us next year, actually letting the land rest. And now, by 2009, the next Shemitah year was even more farmers, more people, more of the kibbutzim that were actually keeping the Shemitah year. So it's gaining some momentum and some realism in it. But there was no Jubilee calculated in the Second Temple period, and it's not being done today. And it was not in Yeshua's day and time. Okay?
Do we have time for one more?
If I can give a quick answer, maybe we can.
Well, how about there's one on chronology. What is the chronology of the anointings of Yeshua's feet spoken of in Matthew 26, Mark 14, Luke 7, and John 12? How many different occasions occurred? Is that too long a question?
Okay, let me look at that. Let's save that for next time.
This is a simpler one?
Yeah.
What do you think is the mark of the beast?
Okay, the mark of the beast In the book of the Revelation, we have an entire section on that when it comes to the actual mark of the beast. And you'll find that on page 351, and in the old Greek text, it does not give the number 666. It gives 3 characters: Chi, Xi, Sigma. And when you take a look at this, Chi, Xi, Sigma, and what those characters look like, you are going to find that those 3 characters are represented in the Basmalah, which is an artistic representation, the most prolific artistic representation in the entire Muslim world. And these 3 are woven into the Basmalah, which states that Allah is greater. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet, and Allah is greater. And so when you go into this, you're going to want to watch this, ladies and gentlemen, and take a very good look at this, because we are seeing what John saw by revelation. These characters are represented in that which is worn on the right arm and also on the forehead of the Muslim jihadists all over the world. So take a look at it, and I think you will find it fascinating. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all the time that we have for Q&A this week, but join us in just a few moments. We will be back with an update from Israel right after this word for our sponsors.
Around the world today, people are hungry for answers. They're asking, who am I? Is this all that I am? And praying to gods of wood and stone, who cannot hear and will not answer. Who will help them understand? As followers of the Messiah, we know the truth that sets men free, the truth about the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
And the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations.
On November 2nd, 2012, A Rood Awakening International began to take the word of the Messiah to over 150 countries around the world. Now you can partner with Michael Rood to sponsor one of these countries. Your sponsorship will help cover the cost of staying on the air in the country of your choice. Today, you can join the Ambassadors Club by sponsoring a country for as little as $100 per month, or a one-time gift of $1,200.
I am sponsoring Marshall Islands.
We're going to sponsor Cyprus.
I'm sponsoring Canada.
Michael Rood's teachings are absolutely like nothing that we've ever experienced before.
This is joyous, and it's not just the joy, but you have that inner peace knowing that you're doing what Jehovah tells you to do.
If your life has been blessed, if you've been ministered to by this ministry, then we are asking you to step in and support this ministry.
I'm sponsoring Colombia because I love Michael Rood's ministry, and I hope God opens the door right where Colombia's heart is at, and I hope the word spreads.
What are the souls of your brethren worth to you? Call today with your monthly gift of $100 or a one-time gift of $1,200 and partner with Michael as a member of the Ambassadors Club. Together, we can bring it to the world.
This week on Messianic.tv, join Michael Rood and the entire Rood crew at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. for Shabbat Night Live, as Michael takes us deeper into the Hebrew roots of your Christian faith. Then at 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern, join Arthur Bailey for Shabbat services from the House of Israel. And on Sundays, you can watch an entire event from the feast time, like Passover, Sukkot, or Hanukkah during Event Sunday, all on Messianic.tv.
This month, for your gift of $50 or more, Michael Rood would like you to have as his gift this handmade card. This card will remind you of the blessing that you are to those around the world. And Michael will include this sword letter opener. For the Word of God is living and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. Hebrews 4:12. This laser-engraved letter opener will remind you to stay in God's Word each time you use it. The Silverstone blade quotes Hebrews 4:12 and joins a gold-tone crosspiece grip. And for your gift of $100 or more, Michael would like for you to also have as his gift a feather pen set. This feather quill pen set provides the basic necessities to write with traditional tools. It includes a feather quill, a wood stylus, an assortment of bibs, and a bottle of calligraphy ink. And to complete this package, you'll also receive a scroll of the Hebrew alphabet to help you to learn to write in Hebrew. Call today or visit our website at www.aroodawakening.tv.
Well, Chaim, we've got to say goodbye to you. You've got some responsibilities before Peter comes in.
Yeah,
but
and I want Peter to just have the stage to himself. Amazing man, and he's given his testimony too, and that'll be available on Messianic.tv to see his full testimony. But it's such a pleasure to have him here today.
That's right, and that's why we're so thankful to have Messianic.tv to be able to put this out to the world. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have now our update inside Israel with Ariella Stegall. Ariella, take it away.
Thank you, Michael. Welcome back to Inside Israel for Shabbat Night Live. I'm Ariella Stegall. On Monday, January 13th, a state memorial ceremony was held in honor of the 11th Prime Minister of Israel, Ariel Sharon. Ariel Sharon was laid to rest in a military funeral at the Shikmim farm alongside his wife, Lily. Leaders from around the world came together, giving their respects while delivering their eulogy. Ariel Sharon was one of the greatest military leaders of the people of Israel and the Israel Defense Forces. He laid the foundation for the IDF war doctrine, primarily the concept of retaliation and offensive measures in the fight against terrorism. He had a significant impact in the Six-Day War. His maneuvering and command abilities were seen during the Yom Kippur War, when he led the IDF across the Suez Canal to surround the Egyptian Third Army. This maneuvering reversed the direction of the battle, leading to a successful conclusion of the war. Ariel Sharon loved Israel and had a passion for the Jewish people. He tilled the land as a farmer and fought for it as a soldier. Take a look at these clips as we honor the late Ariel Sharon.
Israel is against having a Palestinian state. And the government, as a matter of all the government, were against having a Palestinian state here because of the dangers.
I'm Ariella Stegall. Thank you for joining me for this week's edition of Inside Israel.
Thank you, Ariella. And now, as I promised, all the way from Zimbabwe, we have Pastor Peter Ndamba, and he is not only a pastor, he is also the founder and director of Missions to Africa. Peter, it is good to have you here, brother.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Well, Peter, tell us. We've had a lot of time together, but I want you to tell everyone a little bit about your life. For the first 11 years of your life, you were born into war-torn Mozambique, and you knew nothing except war for the first 11 years. Tell us a little bit about the beginning of your life.
Well, this as I was born in 1964, 11 July. And all my life, I knew war. Since some of the people, the civilization or the revolution of wars in Africa. And after the war, 1975, I was 11 years of age. And from that moment, and I needed to go to school, and I went only for 4th grade. And then from that moment, 1980, another war broke loose in Mozambique.
Okay, now, when people in America think of war, we think of the Vietnam War, we think about the Gulf War. That's not what you went through. This is, you know, the butchering of entire families. I think people need to understand what it really means for you to be born into a country that is at war within itself. What did it look like to the average family?
Well, this is not just a television war. We are talking to be seeing dead bodies and you running away out of your life. I was a child and carried, and if your bullets comes to your parents, then it means you're all dead. So we are talking real war.
That's right. Now, and when that happens, if you're being carried by your father and he is shot down, there's no stopping to bury anyone, is that?
Yes, there was no time to bury anyone because the people were in the bush, in the jungle, and they're living or controlled by the army. And you were in the base camp called the strongholds.
So now, so you were really running for your life for quite a while.
Yes, yes, and unfortunately, I was being carried, and I could not be able to do. And most of the time, yes, I grew up by the 9, 10 years of age. I was able now to follow and to run. Mm-hmm. If it means running, and if it means at night, you're not after sleeping. You have to be alert.
Yeah. So you really understand when Yeshua said that, you know, at the time of the abomination of desolation, if you're in Jerusalem, get out of there, and woe to those who are nursing children and have little children, because you were one of those little children that had to be carried by your parents.
Oh, yes.
To flee a mass slaughter.
Yes. And it's that scripture alone, it scares. People will take that scripture for granted. If it happens, and it's not a life that you desire to live on. Because even a pregnant woman, she can be left. Even somebody's about to, had a broken leg, you can be left. Mm-hmm. Each one is after his own life.
That's right. And those that are left, you know, especially when you're fleeing, you went from all the way from Mozambique over into Zimbabwe, didn't
yes.
you? That was a long trek, and you were, you know, really going through the jungle.
Yes, we had to use the bushway. There was no what we call transport. You're saying you're going through, taking a bus or a flight. This is a jungle, and there are animals, and you face hyenas, elephants, and you face lions. So the life also is a risk, and to survive is only God's grace.
You made it all the way into a country where there was relative safety, but you also saw, you know, the terrible aftermath, because you have orphans, you have those families that are no longer together, no way for children to be taken care of. What kind of effect did that have as far as of what the strings that pulled on your heart to be able to help in that situation? You're 11 years old, but now you're looking around and you're seeing the desolation. You're seeing all these little children without parents. What happened?
It was all anger in life. I hated life to the end that I didn't think that there's something that exists called life. And that kind of life and that kind of feeling, it was a distraction into my life, mm-hmm. until the Lord appeared himself into my life to show me that there's a life after this, and take care of others, look after those who are suffering.
Right. Now, you said that you had a vision where the Son of God appeared to you and spoke to you.
Yes, definitely. I saw a vision during the time I got in Zimbabwe in the month of October. And that very month, I don't recall the date because I wasn't well educated in understanding. But in that moment, as I was a shepherd boy taking care of cows and cattle, and the Lord appeared to me in the vision and I saw him standing in the Mount of Olive. I didn't know that there's a mount called Olive. I never been in Jerusalem physically, but I know spiritually. And from that vision, the Lord spoke to me, said, I want to serve you, and I want you to go and help others.
And how old were you at that time?
That time I was 15 years of age. I had just turned 15 and plus month, some extra months. This was 1980.
And so what is it that you then proceeded to do? He said you needed to help, and you didn't have anything yourself. How are you going to help others when you have nothing yourself? How were you provided for?
That was the main question. When the Lord spoke to me, he said, I want you to help others. And he had to give me the whole vision, how it's going to take place. But how and when and how to do it, that was something else. It takes your life, it takes the obedient. Because the Lord had to tell me, say, if you obey me, and I will show you, and all these things will come to pass.
That's right. And so you've been on that path now for many, many years.
Yes, yes.
Well, this is something that all of us here at the studio, we have had the opportunity at the Elders at the Gate Fellowship to have Peter tell his life story. And we recorded it. And this is going to be part of Messianic.tv for this period now. It's going to be in the rotation because we feel it's so important for his message and his ministry to get out there to the world because, there's just no time to tell the story right now, is there, Peter?
Yes.
I mean, it's a great story, and so we invite you to be part of Messianic.tv as we put this out to you. And we've talked in the last couple days, and there is something, a move of the Spirit that's happening in Africa that I've seen it, you've seen it, and that is that people are no longer satisfied with the version of the gospel that has been imported from America. And that, the word is supposed to go forth from Jerusalem. And out of Zion is where the Torah, the instructions come from. And really, you're seeing an awakening to the Hebrew roots of the faith back there in Africa, are you not?
Yes, yes, definitely. Because if the word of the Lord is diluted, so what is the purpose of the word of eternal? What is the purpose of Christ dying on the cross? So we are looking and we wanted the real word of God without being diluted, without being any other extra things are added by humanist philosophy.
That's right. And we see so much of the pagan sun worship of Rome got all added in. And we got it here in America. We exported it to the world. And, the rest of the world just doesn't need to filter the true word through any of this paganism. It's time to get right back down to the heart. The first century believers, how they stood walking in the Spirit and really preaching the gospel of the kingdom. And that is your mission.
Yes, definitely.
Well, Peter, we're so thankful to have you here, and we're thankful that you spent the time with us to be able to tell us your story, and now we can get that out. And so we invite you all to be a part of this on Messianic.tv and to be able to support the work that's going on in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why it is so absolutely deadly important that the gospel of the kingdom goes out around the world. And our Bring It to the World ambassadors are part of that, to get this program on the air, to get Messianic.tv out there on the air, and now Peter's message will be able to get out around Africa and all over the world because of this, and it's because of you and what you're doing. So we thank you for that. And now we're going to take a short break and take it right over to Annie and Laura with the Rood Review. Take it away, ladies.
And you're here in time for the Rood Review.
Annie, what you got?
I have January's love gift.
Oh,
I know, it's exciting. We always try to do something unique and different, something that will remind them of their Hebrew roots and their daily walk. So we have this beautiful sword letter opener that Michael personally uses in his office, as well as our CFO, Richard.
Yep, Richard does.
And we have this beautiful card that was done, and none of them are alike, so they're all different.
They're like snowflakes.
They are, and they're done by Michael's personal friend, so hand done, and they're all beautiful, unique. And then my favorite part, which is this calligraphy set. And it's known that calligraphy sets are the best way to write Hebrew. And so we actually included this Hebrew alphabet scroll for you to practice. And again, this is something that Michael uses. He actually uses this ink and this form to write Hebrew.
Annie, these are so cool. I love the idea of practicing Hebrew on the calligraphy, with the calligraphy pen. That is like awesome. My kids would have had so much fun. They would have loved this whenever we were homeschooling. So tell me, what made you decide to choose this little arrangement here?
Well, unique and different, as usual. Something, again, that will remind them of their daily Hebrew walk.
Well, I'm different, and I like things that are different, so I love this love gift. If you love this love gift, you can go to aroodawakening.tv/stationery and give a donation and receive this love gift with your donation. You're going to want to do it now, though. You've got, what, 1 week or week and a half, 2 weeks left of the month, so go quick.
I think they have even shorter time than that. So
Well, then they need to go do it now.
I know, and this is something that we offer only one time. Once they're gone, they are gone.
All right.
So now, Laura, I heard that you have some news for us.
I have deadlines.
Oh, okay.
Annie, I have deadlines.
By all means, please, tell us about it.
The deadline to save on the Israel tour date is quickly approaching. You've got until January 31st to save. The cost to attend the tour up until January 31st is $4,775. After that, it's going to go up to $4,900. So you want to go ahead and do that now.
Okay, $4,000 to go on a tour?
Yes.
Why is it cheaper to go with other ministries or other tour groups?
All right, here's the thing you've got to remember. That price of $4,775, it includes lodging, it includes airfare. That's huge. It includes all your food. So everything you're going to need is included in that price. Plus, you're not getting a regular old, here's the temple tour guide. You're getting Michael Rood. He's telling you the stories about the different locations. It's a good time. It's fun. It's worth it.
I just went to my favorite travel website and I looked up flight and just lodging, and it was over $6,000. Doesn't include food or tours or anything extra.
That's right.
So, I mean, you're right. $4,900 is a bargain.
It's a bargain. It even includes tips.
Wow.
And that's pretty good. The only thing it doesn't include, your laundry. Come on, do your own laundry. It doesn't include your laundry. It doesn't include your souvenirs and gifts that you might want to get. It doesn't include telephone charges.
Okay.
So really, other than that, everything else, you're good to go. It's a bargain.
That's very good to hear. Just go to aroodawakening.tv/tours for more information and to sign up.
Absolutely. I have one more thing.
Okay.
At Hanukkah, this past Hanukkah, we presented a limited edition roasted premium coffee, Rood Brew, during Hanukkah. It wasn't advertised. It wasn't available anywhere. We just had it available at Hanukkah. Well, we had some left over, so now we want to make it available to everyone out there if they want to give it a try. You're not going to be able to buy it any other time. It's limited edition. And I'm always told by folks that they want to try Rood Brew, but they don't know that they want to make the commitment of buying, several bags or whatever. We're going to make it easy. Right now, you can get this special blend Hanukkah Rood Brew coffee for only $10. Just go to our website, click on the store button, and look for our coffee section, and you'll find it's the Hanukkah blend. You'll see it priced for $10. Good time to try it.
Well, and then you can have coffee with the Rood crew.
You know what else you can do with the Rood crew? You can join us next week on the Rood Review. Shabbat Shalom, Torah fans.
Thank you, ladies. And now we're going to have our musical guest, the Messianic Minstrels Tshuva, singing There's Going to Be a Raising. And then after that, please join me in the Tent of Abraham for the Kiddush And then our teaching tonight, From Here to Eternity, the good news of the apocalypse and the demise of the New World Order. Tonight's episode, the seventh trumpet, the last trumpet, and the resurrection of the saints. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to Shabbat.
Is not one I would have chosen. It's the path you have made for me. If my heart stays truly open, I know your hands can fashion me. Hope's what's holding me up when the sorrows weigh me down. I'm trusting in this plan that you are working good somehow. The absence makes me feel alone. I just want them to come home, and they live on in our memory. The dark clouds gathered round this grave can't quench the hope in me. 'Cause someday I know that death will be no more. When it's swallowed up in victory, new life will be restored. You're not a stranger to pain. I know you've tasted it before. The bleeding from your wounds, and on your side the open sore. The blood and the water redeem. They cleanse and make me new. There's resurrection power in the life that comes from you. I know that we will meet again. Love triumphs in the end, and they live on in our memory. The dark clouds gathered round this grave can't quench the hope in me. 'Cause someday I know that death will be no more. When it's swallowed up in victory, new life will be restored. There's gonna be a raising here someday. It's gonna be amazing here in that day. 'Cause our faith will truly become sight. What a glorious day. What a glorious life. It's gonna be a raising here someday. It's gonna be amazing here in that day. 'Cause our faith will truly become sight. What a glorious day. What a glorious life. And they live on in our memory. Dark clouds gathered round this grave can't quench the hope in me. 'Cause someday I know that death will be no more. When it's swallowed up in victory, new life will be restored.
Traditions that we inherited from Babylon through Constantine have us occasionally with a little plastic cup and a little round wafer in a church service having what is called communion. But Yeshua was not having communion with his disciples. It was the last meal before his crucifixion, which happened at the time the Passover lambs were being sacrificed the following morning. Yeshua took this opportunity to explain something that had been embedded in the Israelite culture for then over 1,000 years. Melchizedek brought forth bread and wine to Abraham, and he blessed the Most High, saying, Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Yeshua said, this represents my body, which will be broken for you. As often as you do it in remembrance of me. And so we break this bread and we do it in remembrance of him. Likewise, Yeshua took the cup and he blessed the Most High with that blessing that Melchizedek blessed the Most High. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Elohim, the King of the universe, the creator of the fruit of the vine. Yeshua said, this represents my shed blood, which will be poured out for the remission of sin. I will not drink another drop of the fruit of the vine. You take my cup and divide it among yourselves, because I won't drink it until I drink it again with you in my Father's kingdom. The marriage supper of the Lamb, Yeshua will lift this cup and he will say, L'chaim, to life everlasting. And until then, we remember what he's done and remember that marriage supper of the Lamb. Get ready. This is From Here to Eternity, the good news of the apocalypse and the demise of the New World Order. This is the seventh trumpet, the last trumpet, and the resurrection of the saints. We are now coming up at the end of the parentheses, which is between the sixth trumpet and the seventh trumpet. We have a parenthesis in which the seven thunders are then introduced. The seven thunders show us that there is going to be a time of great tribulation that is so devastating, that is so gut-wrenching, that the Messiah doesn't want his servants to know the things which must come to pass. All we are allowed to know about this is that going through it will make us sick to our stomach, but the very realization that we're almost there, we're almost at the end, is sweet as honey to the taste. You know, there are things in life that we are asked to do, and things that I've gone through in my life that if I would have known how difficult it would have been, I would never have done it. I sometimes refer to it as being deceived by the Almighty, where I've been set out to do something, and I've been set on a course. I know what my mission is, but when I get out there, then I find out how difficult it is. And if I would have known in advance, I would never have done it. I don't like pain. I don't like suffering. I don't think any of us do. But after having gone through it, then I saw that I was strengthened in the time of need at the point where I thought I was being pressed out beyond what I was able to bear. I found that I had the strength to go through it, not because I have the strength, but because his strength is in me. And this, I believe I've experienced so that I can share this with you, because this is what we are going to be doing in the future. We don't have to fear it, ladies and gentlemen. You were born for this moment. You were born for the last days. You were born to confront the New World Order and the political correctness that is going to funnel everyone into this homogenization of the mind, to where everyone thinks like mush and no one takes a stand for the one true God, where everyone will just willingly walk right in and get a mark on the right hand, the forehead, will walk right into it, because the entire society has groomed us and has pushed us this way, but you are different. You are going to stand out from among the crowd. You're going to be strong. You have got a steel rod up your spine. You are not going to give up. You're not going to quit. You are going to be what, as Yeshua said, do not think that I came to bring peace. I didn't. I came to bring a sword. I came to bring a division, a separation. You have been called to that separation. You've been called to that holiness, separating yourself from the world and walking in alignment, in accordance with the living Spirit of God. And this is what is going to give you the strength to continue on. And we see that after the sixth trumpet, then we have the seven thunders, and then the seven thunders, then the next thing, we have another parentheses, and this begins in chapter 11, in verse 1, and we're going to begin reading. A reed like a measuring rod was given to me, and the angel said, rise up and measure the temple of Yahovah and the altar. Now, a reed like a measuring rod, when you see the term reed used, you know, think of branch. Don't think of like a stalk of a weed with with a flowering or a seeded head on it. No, it's a branch. It's a rod. It's something that is being used as a measuring rod. So it's not just some kind of flimsy thing. So even though you're reading King James English perhaps, and it says reed, you've got to think of a branch, a stick. Like a measuring rod was given to me, the angel says, rise up and measure the temple of Yahovah and the altar and those who worship at it. But leave out the court which is outside the temple. Do not measure it, because it is given to the Gentiles. They shall tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months. Now, this is a clue. 42 months is 3.5 years, 1,260 days. However, in a 3.5 year period, you will always have an Adar bet in there. And so you're never going to have exactly 42 months. You're going to have maybe 43, maybe 44 months. You're never going to have exactly 1,260 days. But see, if we know the Creator's reckoning of time, we know exactly what it's talking about. It's talking about a time, times, twice, and half a time. 3.5. 3.5 years equals 42 months, equals 1,260 days, even though you will never have in a biblical calendar exactly 42 months and exactly 1,260 days. That's just the way it is. It's like shorthand, people. And if you insist on interpreting everything in the Bible literally, you have to remember there are over 240 figures of speech in the Bible, sometimes up to 40 different categories under any given figure of speech. The Bible is full of figures of speech. You know, we don't read the Bible literally. We read the Bible and we understand that figures of speech are part of it. See, words are pictures. They draw pictures in your mind. And if you're reading and you end up reading words and you no longer see the pictures in your mind, that means you don't understand what's being spoken. Because the pictures that are developed in your mind, they are reality. And so we are shown right here. Here is a revelation. And he's told to measure the outer court, and then he says that the outer court is given to the Gentiles. They're going to be in control of this for 3.5 years. And then in verse 3, it says that I will give power to my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, which is 3.5 years. They're clothed in sackcloth. And these are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands which stand before the master of all the earth. And of course, this is referring to Zechariah chapter 4, verses 1 through 14, where it speaks of these 2 olive trees and these 2 lampstands. These are literally prophets who stand before the Almighty, not by power, not by might, but by my Spirit. And this is what the context of Zechariah is all about. Not because they have power of themselves, but because they have the Spirit of the living God, they are able to do what no man is able to do. See, Yeshua tells us that when we see the abomination of desolation, get out of Jerusalem immediately. We see that it's at that same time that the war in heaven transpires, and Satan, who is kicked out of heaven, he comes down to the earth. He knows he has a short time, and he has great fury and wrath that is unleashed at this time. And so we see that both of these moments in time come down to the same thing, and great tribulation, get out of Jerusalem, but yet there are two that, not by their own strength, not by their might, but by the Spirit of the living God in them, they are able to stand in Jerusalem, and nobody can stand against them. In verse 5, we continue on. If any man attempts to harm them, fire will come out of their mouths and devour their enemies. They'll toast them like a marshmallow at a campfire girls' picnic. Nothing can stand up against them. If any man attempts to harm them, he will be killed in this manner. Just fire comes out of their mouth, bam, they're toasted. They're done for. And then it says that they have the power to shut the heavens so that it will not rain in the days of their prophesying. That's serious. It's like Elijah. 3.5 years, 1,260 days, it's not going to rain. They have the power over the waters to turn them to blood, like Moses and Aaron did, and to smite the earth with any kind of plague as often as they desire. So anyone that comes up against them, they are coming up against a formidable foe, because these two men, when they take the stand, if someone comes against them, bam, they can call fire down from heaven. They can do whatever they need to, because they have a testimony to deliver. They have a witness. And then it says in verse 7, when they finish their testimony, the beast that ascends out of the abyss, Abaddon, the destroyer, shall make war against them, and he will overcome them and kill them. Their dead bodies will lie in the streets of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our master was crucified. It's speaking of Jerusalem. And now trampled underfoot of the Gentiles. This is definitely spiritually Sodom. This is Egypt. And this is where their bodies are going to lie in the streets, dead. This is when their testimony is finished. This is why I say, this is when I believe that all of us are going to die, when our testimony is finished. So my advice is get a testimony and then drag it out as long as you possibly can. And when it's done, bam, it's over with, done. You've done what you can do. You said what you can do. And bam, if then they kill you, remember, you rest in the grave, and your good works follow you. White garments are given to you, so to speak. You know, in the resurrection, you will dress in white garments, which are the righteous acts of the saints. You rest from your labors, as it tells us later in the book of the Revelation. Blessed are they that die from henceforth. Their works do follow them. And so these men, they can't die. Nobody can touch them until their testimony is finished. So drag it out just as long as you possibly can, because if your testimony still isn't done, when they cut your head off, then, don't worry. You could be resurrected. Your head can get glued back on. If Malchus could lose his ear, Yeshua pick up his ear off the ground, wipe it off on Peter's tallit, and then stick it back on the side of Malchus's head. Reattaching a head is no big deal. So right up to the last minute, I mean, if they got you on the guillotine, right in the guillotine, and it comes down and slices your head off, just start prophesying. Just start speaking the truth while the guillotine is on its way down, and they cut your head off, and you keep, I want to be singing. I want to be singing. I want to be, shouting out the Shema at that time, and to sing Amazing Grace. And while my head is cut off and my head rolls down, and I keep on speaking, and then they have to come and hack my head into little bitty pieces because they can't stop my head from talking and speaking. I want this to be a nightmare to all those wackos who cut my head off for months to come, to where it becomes a testimony to them. And if my testimony is not done, then, then something miraculous is going to happen. But keep the testimony going until the last minute. And just like these two witnesses, when their testimony is finished, they're dead. They lay dead in the streets of Jerusalem. And then the people, the families, the tongues, the nations, they will all see their dead bodies for 3.5 days and will not allow their dead bodies to be put in the grave. Those who dwell on the earth shall rejoice over them. They're going to make merry. They're going to send gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented all those who live upon the earth. Now, I've heard people say, well, this must be Christmas time because they're giving gifts to each other. Well, Christmas is a very small portion of the people on planet Earth, okay? You can't make conclusions like that. It's not Christmas time. You got to take a look at the appointed times of the Almighty, and Christmas is not one of them, I guarantee you. Let's take a look at exactly what time this is, because now 3 days, 3.5 days and nights, they are dead, laying in the streets. And I will tell you, this is like a September time because of what goes on. And so, after 3.5 days, their bodies are bloated up like an armadillo on a hot highway in Texas after just a day. And everyone's giving gifts. They're merry because they tormented these people for 3.5 years. But then, verse 11, but after 3.5 days, the Spirit of life from Jehovah enters into them, and they stand up on their feet. Now, everyone freaks out. It says, in the King James, it says that great fear fell upon all those who saw them. And they, the two witnesses, hear a great voice from heaven calling to the two witnesses, come up here, come up hither. Wait, stop just a minute. This is the exact rehearsal that took place month after month, year after year, millennium after millennium. At the end of the month, when the moon wanes and there is no moon, then everyone knows that when the new moon appears, it's the beginning of the month. Now, this is significant for the beginning of every month, but there are a couple of months where it's very significant, such as in the month of the Aviv, when the new moon in the spring appears, in which the barley has reached the stage of maturity called Aviv, within a one-day walk from Jerusalem, then it's the month of the Aviv. And this is when we will keep the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And if the barley is Aviv, within a one-day walk from Jerusalem, then 2 weeks later, when it comes to the time of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, then the barley will be Aviv on the side of the Mount of Olives. And the barley is harvested after, and this is according to the Zadokim reckoning, not how the Pharisees changed it later, but at the end of the weekly Sabbath, they would go over the Kidron Valley Bridge, and then they would harvest the 10 standing sheaves of barley, 10 omer barley, bring them back across the Temple Mount onto the Temple Mount, where the priest would then thresh out the grain, and they would parch the grain. They would parch Aviv, it says, and offer Aviv parched in fire, as it was then parched to remove the moisture. It was ground, it was baked into loaves, and then offered in the temple as the first fruit offering on Yom HaBikurim, the day of the first fruits. Now this is very important, all these details about the beginning of the year, but that sighting of the new moon, the first sliver of the new moon, that was done so that we would know that the Passover lamb is to be selected on the 10th day of the month, but yet there's even a more important date, and that is the first day of the 7th month, the day of the blowing of trumpets. Because now, The day of the blowing of trumpets is on the first day of the month, the first day of the 7th month, the first day of the Sabbath month. And on the first day of that month, it's the only feast that occurs on the first day. That means you don't know the day or hour the Feast of Trumpets is going to take place because it's based on the visible signing of the first sliver of the new moon. So it's at the time of the harvest. It's the 6th month. We're bringing in the harvest at that time. And then the moon wanes to where in the morning, just before the sun rises, then the last sliver of the old moon finally fades as the sun comes up. And then we know a day and a half to 2.5 days later, we will see the new moon, but we don't know which. Is it a day and a half or 2.5 days later? We don't know. And so at that point, we stop what we're doing. We get our garments all washed out. The women prepare a feast. The men get everything ready, and the garments are set aside. They're all bleached out, ready for this moment. And so then, just as it happens every month, but it becomes particularly important this month, it is now when the sun sets for the next day and a half. See, we're in the morning, see the first sliver, the last sliver fade into darkness or into light. Now, a day and a half later, as the sun sets, we're watching. Everyone is watching for the first sliver of the new moon, the Chodesh, or the renewed light on the moon. And we don't know when we're going to see it. Is it a day and a half? Is it 2.5 days? But when the sun sets, we're watching. And when the first sliver of the new moon is sighted above the horizon, just after the sun sets, then men in and around Jerusalem and even from distant areas will then start their journey up to Jerusalem. Now the sun is set. The gates of the temple are closed at this point. It is after sunset. And that is when the witnesses, it takes at least 2 witnesses, they go up to the Temple Mount and cry out to the temple guard, we have sighted the new moon. The temple guard goes down and sees that there are 2 witnesses. He notifies a member of the Sanhedrin, one of the Nasi, one of the princes of Israel, that they have sighted the new moon. Witnesses have come up. And so then, after interviewing them out there, then the gates are open and the high priest calls up to them, come up hither, come up here. And the witnesses ascend up onto the Temple Mount, go into the Hall of Hewn Stones, where on the wall they have images that are painted of the phases of the moon. And they ask the witnesses what it is that they saw independently. When they have 2 witnesses that have given the exact detail of what they saw in the visible sighting of the first sliver of the new moon, that is when the high priest would cry out, sound the trumpet. And from the place of the trumpeting, which is the southwest corner of the Temple Mount, and that part of the wall of the temple is actually in the Israel Museum to this day. They found that place, the place of the trumpeting. That is where they would blow the trumpets. The silver trumpets would be blown from the Temple Mount, and then over on the side of the Mount of Olives, they would then light a signal fire, putting the torch to the wood and light a signal fire, and then from mountaintop to mountaintop, they would light signal fires. They would light fires on poles and wave them in the air, and at that moment, it is the high Sabbath. It is Yom Teruah. It's the Day of Trumpets. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not prepared in advance, if you do not have your clothing ready, if your banquet is not ready, you have missed the Day of Trumpets. You must be prepared for when that trumpet sounds, bam, that's it. Then, if there are 2 in the field, a Gentile and an Israelite in the field working, the Israelites will immediately stop what they're doing right in the middle of everything when they hear the sound of that trumpet, and then they go and prepare and enter into the feast of the Day of Trumpets. If there are 2 women at the millstone grinding, a Gentile woman and an Israelite, the Gentiles will just keep on working away. It's no deal to them. They don't know anything about the Creator's times and seasons. They are not of the commonwealth of Israel. They are without God and without hope. They have no idea. They're just heathen pagans out there. They're just going to keep on working because it's the harvest time. But what does that Israelite do? They are ready for that moment. When the trumpet sounds, they enter into that feast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what has been rehearsed over and over and over for centuries until the destruction of the temple, and we still rehearse it today in our traditions to remember this, because when these two men lay dead in the streets for 3.5 days, when the sun sets at the end of 3.5 days, that is when the high priest from heaven, Yeshua, cries out, "Come up hither, come up here." And it says, they ascended up into heaven in a cloud while their enemies watched them. Immediately, there was a great earthquake, a great shaking of the earth. The 10th part of the city collapsed. 7,000 men were slain in the earthquake. Those who remained alive after the earthquake were frightened and gave glory to the Elohim of heaven, because they saw the testimony of these men for 3.5 years. They saw their dead bodies blown up in the streets of Jerusalem, and after 3 days, they saw them stand up, and everyone was in shock. Oh no, what's next now? And they, the two witnesses, hear the voice of the King of Kings, the Kohen Gadol forever, the high priest forever, after the order of the Melchizedek, shout out the very words of the high priest, "Come up hither." And those two ascend up before the throne in heaven. Now, take a look and see what happens, because now, it says in verse 14, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe comes quickly. The second woe is past. The third woe comes quickly. So now we've stepped away from the parentheses right here, because this is a 3.5-year period. 3.5-year period. And remember, the second woe is the sixth trumpet. So the sixth trumpet sounds. It is woe to the inhabitants of the earth for the reason of the sixth trumpet. And then we have the 200 million man army, a third of the earth's population, again, being wiped out, being killed by this 200 million man army coming out of the east. And then the action stops. The seven thunders, and we're just about there. Almost there at the last trump. Then we have the parentheses that talks about the two witnesses that testify for 3.5 years, and at the end of the 3.5 years, that is when they're called up by the high priest in heaven, because what's next? It's the seventh and the last trumpet. It is the fulfillment of Yom Teruah. And so now, in verse 14, we step out of the parentheses and we're back and saying, okay, the second woe is past. And now, the third woe comes quickly. We're going to take a break just before that third woe and before the last trumpet, because now this is what we've all been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. And this is when it is all worth everything that we have done to advance the kingdom in this world now. Every bit of pain and strain and trouble and tribulation will be repaid, because the Lord, Yeshua, Messiah, is about to be revealed from heaven with the messengers of his might. We are about to see the culmination of the mystery of God being executed. And we're going to know it's all worth it. We're taking a break right now to allow you to be a part of what we're doing, part of this ministry. We are getting this out free of charge to the entire world, but it's not without great expense. If your life has been ministered to by these teachings and by this ministry, then please understand that at great expense it goes out to you. We are doing something that nobody else on the planet is doing. And this has been the commission from when I was a child to make this happen, and this is the day. Please stand with me, shoulder the burden with me to get this message out to the world. You will be rewarded for all of eternity. And those who give as much as a cold cup of water now, in the time of trouble ahead, their reward will not be stripped from them. We're going to take this time and allow you to give. The second woe is past, the third woe comes quickly, and now we see the culmination of the last trumpet. This is the resurrection of the saints on Tishrei 1. This is Yom Teruah, the Day of Trumpets. It is now 15 days to the marriage supper of the Lamb, and we see as the seventh trumpet sounds, it is the cry of triumph. We have rehearsed this every month for over 1,000 years while the temple stood. This is exactly how the witnesses were brought up to the Temple Mount by the voice of the high priest calling them to come up, and then the trumpet was then called sound the trumpet when the two witnesses gave the accurate testimony of the sighting of the new moon. And now we see it in its fulfillment. In chapter 11, verse 15, now the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven crying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of the Almighty and of his Messiah, and he, the Messiah, shall reign forever and ever. There's no way to give you the impact. It's like all of heaven is echoing with these four beasts that when they shout holy, the universe shakes. And now everything in heaven is shaking because the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of the Almighty and of his Messiah. And he, the Messiah, shall reign forever and ever. And the 24 elders who sat before Yahovah fell on their faces and worshiped Yahovah, saying, we give you thanks, O Yahovah Elohim, El Shaddai, who is and was and is to come, because you have taken your great power and have reigned. And now we have the first resurrection. The saints are rewarded. Verse 18, Alpha, right here. The heathen raged, but your wrath has now come. This is now the time that the righteous dead shall be judged, and you will reward your servants, the prophets and the saints, and those who fear your name, both small and great. Again, I'm going to read it again. The heathen raged, but your wrath is now come. Or has now come. King James is now come. But the heathen raged, but your wrath has now come. This is the time that the righteous dead shall be judged, and you will reward your servants, the prophets and the saints, and those who fear your name, both small and great. This is it. It is the last trump. It is the resurrection of the just. This is, just as Shaul said, every man's going to be made alive in his own order. Messiah, the first fruits. Remember when he arose, they arose, appeared to many in the streets in Jerusalem, and then Yeshua, the morning of Yom HaBikurim, presented them as the first fruits before the throne in heaven, but not before. He told Miriam to go tell my disciples that I'm now going to send to my father and their father, and I will meet them in the Galilee. Go tell them that. And Yeshua sent it up with those saints who arose when he arose, because they were the first fruits, presented them before the Father's throne. They are the 24 elders. They are not 24 angels. They're not 24 beasts. They're 24 elders. Then he leaves them behind and is back on the earth. And Miriam, who could not touch him before he ascended, because the high priest must be in seclusion from the time of the presentation of the Passover lamb and the slaughter of the Passover lamb until after the first fruit is offered. Yeshua said, don't touch me. But yet when he was back on the earth, when the other women came, it says that they then met him. He met them by the way, and they then grabbed him by the feet. They could now touch him because his time of seclusion in Mount Moriah as the high priest after the order of Melchizedek was completely fulfilled, and so now they could touch him. And so now we see this very thing, this very issue. The heathen raged. The heathen raged. But your wrath is now come. Now, this is exactly, listen to this, this is Psalm 2. This is where we started with the whole thing. Psalm 2 is quoted more times in the book of Acts and Revelation than anything else. Psalm 2, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? It says right here, the heathen raged, but your wrath is now come. Listen, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers of the earth take counsel together. They conspire together against Yahovah and against his Messiah, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast their cords from us. We're not going to follow. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to run the earth. He that sits in the heavens is going to laugh. Adonai shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak to them in his wrath and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree Yahovah has said unto me. Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thy inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Be wise now, therefore, O you kings. Be instructed, you judges of the earth. Serve Yahovah with fear. Rejoice with trembling, and kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you perish from the way when his wrath is kindled but a little. And now, the heathen have raged, and his wrath has now come. This is now the wrath of the Lamb. This is it. And he will pour out his wrath upon the inhabitants of the earth, those who are left behind. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not qualified, you will be left behind. Because it is Messiah, the first fruits, those who are Messiahs at his coming. This is what we're talking about. Just as Shaul laid out in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, every man is going to be made alive in their own order. Messiah, the first fruits, those who are Messiahs at his coming, the gathering together, then the end resurrection, which we see after the millennial reign of the Messiah, because he will reign. He will put down all principalities and powers and authorities, and he will destroy the last enemy, which is death. Now, (18b). Now, why I separated 18a from 18b is because 18 altogether reads, "The heathen rage, but your wrath is now come, and it is also time that you will destroy those who destroyed the earth." I separated these in the chronology because the heathen rage, but your wrath is now come. This is the time that the righteous dead shall be judged. And you will reward your servants the prophets and the saints and those who fear your name, both small and great. I did not want to lose the impact of this moment, because when that trumpet sounds, the last trumpet, that's when the dead are raised. The righteous are rewarded. His servants, the prophets, small and great, are raised and rewarded, and he will now destroy those destroyers of the earth, as it says in 18b. And that, of course, is in your chronological gospels in that order. And now we have the demise of the new world order. The temple in heaven is open. Verse 19, the temple of Jehovah was open in heaven, and the ark of the covenant was once again seen in his temple. There was lightning and voices and thunder and an earthquake and great hail. When do we see the ark of the covenant? We're not talking about the throne itself in heaven, of which the ark of the covenant is the representation upon the earth. We are talking about the ark of the covenant itself, the most holy artifact on planet earth. So holy that the high priest was only allowed to approach it with a smoking fire pan in front of him and with blood for an atonement for his sins. Could not be approached otherwise. And that ark of the covenant, now, after the last trump, after the gathering together of the saints, then it is seen in heaven and not before. The ark of the covenant is not there now. And as Rabbi Shlomo Goren, the former chief rabbi of Israel, said, the ark of the covenant is not lost. It was never lost. It was deliberately hidden. It was hidden in Mount Moriah. He said, I have been in the chamber. I have seen the ark of the covenant. And it was at the very time that Ron Wyatt was in Jerusalem doing the excavations after the Ark of the Covenant was found, that Rabbi Shlomo Gordon said, I have been in the chamber and I have seen the Ark of the Covenant. So those who want to say, poo-poo it and say, oh, no, they didn't do it. Okay, you have not only the testimony of the one who spent years digging, you've also heard now the testimony of Rabbi Shlomo Goren, the chief rabbi of Israel, who has no reason not to tell the truth on this. As a matter of fact, I think he was risking something, even telling the truth. But here, the Ark of the Covenant has been raptured, harpazo, rapturoed, brought up, and it is then placed in the throne room of the Almighty. And now, we have the temple in heaven, which is opened. Right here, the temple of Jehovah was opened in heaven. The Ark of the Covenant was once again seen in his temple. There was lightning and voices and thunder and a great earthquake and hail. And now we have a parenthesis that extends from chapter 12, verse 1, all the way to Revelation chapter 15, verse 4. That is the entire parentheses. There are several sub-parentheses in here. But again, I'm going to go all the way to 15, verse 15 and verse 4. Verse 15:4, I'm going to have to find it in right here, my chronological Gospels. And through verse 4, and now, chapter 15, verse 5, and I looked, and again, I saw the temple in heaven was open, and I saw the Ark of the Covenant. Again, it is a repetition. Right here it says the temple in heaven was open. I saw the Ark of the Covenant. And then we have a parentheses of chapter 12, verse 1 through 15, verse 4. And then we end the parentheses with, and again, I saw that temple, the Mishkan in heaven was open, and I saw the Ark of the Covenant, and then it picks it up again. See, the structure of the book of the Revelation is a little bit on the complex side, and that is why I've spent an entire lifetime reading it. I believe that I've probably read the book of the Revelation and listened to it more than any living person on planet Earth. Why can I say that? Because I'm the only one who has been with me for the last, over 40 years of reading it over and over and over again, and then checking every word back with the Greek originals and seeing any variation among the 5,000 extant Greek manuscripts of the New Testament, and looking through all this to see what the story is and how it's being laid out. Parentheticals are not uncommon. The book of Hebrews, we've got parentheticals that go for chapters. We see them all through the Bible. These parentheses are very important to show cause and effect, but now we're going to get into the detail of exactly what happens in these parentheses, and now we are going to start out in Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. Now, again, here's a parentheses. It's going to show cause and effect, and it will become very clear if you listen. There appeared a great sign in the heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, the new moon under her feet, and above her head a crowd of 12 stars. Being great with child, she cried, agonizing in labor and about to give birth. There appeared another sign in heaven. I saw a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon its head. His tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. The dragon stood before the woman who was about to be delivered in order to devour her child as soon as it was born. She brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to Yahweh and to his throne. Now, here we see in this very parentheses, right here, and we're going to go right to our footnote in the chronological Gospels on here, but we see here is a picture of who is the man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Psalm 2, the Messiah, the Son of the Most High, who the Almighty calls him his son. He will rule the earth with a rod of iron. It says that this woman was about to give birth, and it says that the dragon stood before her to devour the child as soon as the child was born. But then the child was caught up to the throne. This is the entire duration of Yeshua's life. From before he was born until he's caught up to the Father's throne, the dragon was unable to subdue him and destroy him. He tried to destroy him as soon as he was born, and we have that record in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2, in which the Herod went to destroy the child and was unable to do so. And then even through Yeshua's temptation by the dragon, by Hasatan, he refused to bow to him. Yeshua was crucified, he died, and he was caught up to the Father's throne, where now, at the end of the age, he now strips the seals off because he is going to take the earth. He is divesting Satan of his authority, and this is the culmination of the entire event. Now, when it talked about there appeared a great sign in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, the new moon, I put the new moon under her feet. It just says the moon in the King James, but the new moon under her feet, above her head, a crown of 12 stars. Now, we detail this all through the gospel chronology, and especially back at the point in which it happened. But it was just after sunset on September 12th of 3 BCE, before the Common Era, while the sky was clothed with the last rays of the setting sun, and the first sliver of the new moon, 4% illuminated, 7 degrees above the horizon, appeared beneath the feet of the constellation of the woman, Betula in Hebrew, or Virgo in Latin, meaning virgin. At that moment, in the constellation of Arye, the lion, above her head, the planet Tzedek, which is the righteous, came into conjunction with the star Melech, the king, which is astronomically positioned between the front feet of the lion, Arye, the lion of the tribe of Judah. The sighting of the new moon that evening announced the day of trumpets, and the astronomical display in the constellation above the head of the woman heralded the upcoming birth of the righteous king, the lion of the tribe of Judah. This is the great sign in the heavens. And this great sign in heaven occurred as Miriam herself was about to give birth. Just 15 days later, at the beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles, she brought forth the man-child who was to rule all nations. On the first high Sabbath of the Feast of Tabernacles, the Word was made flesh and tabernacled, or succoted among us, as we read in John chapter 1, verse 14, and the Word is made flesh and tabernacled among us. See, this great sign in the heavens was one of the astronomical signs that the Chaldean astronomers were looking to. They were given information, and I believe that because of Daniel's position, trained in all the astronomy of Israel, and then as a member of the royal court, he was then taken into Babylon, made a eunuch, and trained in all the wisdom of the Chaldeans. Daniel was given revelation. Daniel was the one who, as a eunuch, had no children, was given great wealth, made a mighty man for 3 different times in Babylon, and he, I believe, is the one who put his treasure into the hands of Jewish astronomers in the Chaldean Empire and said, when you see this sign in the heavens, I want you to lay this treasure at the feet of my Lord, my King, and my Messiah. They saw a star in the east. They turned around and traveled west to Jerusalem, saying, we have come to worship he who was born King of the Jews. But Micah, a prophet living long after Daniel, said he would be born in Bethlehem, and so they made their journey out to Bethlehem. They came to the house where the one young child was and laid the treasure at the feet of the young child. And it was the day before that treasure was needed so that they could make their journey down into Egypt for the sustenance of the family and the Messiah to come back into the land of Israel at the appointed time. His timing is right on the nose, ladies and gentlemen. He has gotten it's all figured out, and we're going to continue on with this parentheses and find out the rest of the story as we come back for Shabbat Night Live. I'd like to pray. Yehovah bless you and keep you. Yehovah make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yehovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. In the name of the Messiah, the King, the Savior, the Prince of Peace. Amen, amen. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov. Have a good week, and I'll see you back here next week for Shabbat Night Live. Lehi Tro. We'll see you later. Bye.